in my life when I was told, you can't, you shouldn't, that's not good.
Thank you!
My mom is somewhere here. She was one of those that said you can, you should, and you must. And as Hayden was mentioning, there were many people that I was fortunate enough to meet in my life before they passed, and they inspired me to do what I needed to do in life. And I know that there are thousands of members of the LGBTQI community.
Hello, good evening. Welcome to Pride TT21. This is our third week of programming, and tonight we have a session entitled Mothers Always Knew. And as you heard in that clip earlier, my mother certainly knew. But, before we get into the details of the discussion, we really want to continue to thank all of the management committee, the board, the stakeholders, the co-chairs for maintaining the momentum. It's only, as I said, the beginning of the third week, and it feels almost as though we've been doing this for a year. But each night we've been bringing to you programming dedicated this year to highlighting our power, the continuous ongoing struggle of our women and their contribution to our community, our lives, and the ongoing struggle and fight and battle for equity in our country and the world. So Pride TT21 has launched this theme, as I said, and today we're starting with a discussion with our moms and about our moms. Tomorrow we're going to be having a session with the Trans Coalition, the Trinidad and Tobago Trans Coalition. They're actually hosting a Caribbean-wide trans summit of all of their powerful women. And then on Wednesday, we're actually going to focus again on mothers and talk to some of the queer moms in our community. So tonight we're looking at it from the vantage point of the mothers who gave birth to queer children. And on Wednesday, we're going to be looking at the vantage point of queer moms who have given birth or who have adopted children. So as I said, the programming is very planned, and we are hoping that sessions such as these reach many people and can assist parents in navigating this sometimes complex situation, but at the end of the day, resulting in them simply loving their children unconditionally. So, this type of programming is not by chance. As a matter of fact, in 2018, when we had the first edition of Pride TT, we partnered with Silver Lining Foundation to host an event under the banner of their program, Stronger Families, where Raymond Chukong, he presented the monologue from one of his famous plays in which the son was dealing with coming out to his father and the father's internal response to that realization about his son, Norman. And we used that monologue to open a conversation in the room with parents and their children. And it was standing room only that evening. And as a matter of fact, that showed us that there were enough parents and children who were willing to come out, no pun intended, and talk openly about their journey in, as I said, either realizing or finding out or being told that their child was not a member of the heteronormative grouping of society and was either questioning themselves belonged to one of the identified segments or didn't identify, was gender fluid or non-binary, along the spectrum. And because those parents were willing to stand up with us in the first year, we continued this type of programming over the last 3 years. And tonight, as I said, we're here to have a discussion with some of our moms and about our moms. So what we'd like to do is actually present a clip from that first edition of Stronger Families so you can get a color for some of what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Amen means you're effeminate, your Hanish, you have to, and so we have to dissect that and interrogate that a little bit. So I think we need more of those practical things into the curriculum. We need to start to talk about it in more of these sectors in order to have that change that you're talking about. And then the big hurdle now is how does that trickle down into secondary school?
Yeah, and into
primary school.
Oh, but this is it.
Yeah.
I, a few years back, worked at the GPSPC and I coordinated a volunteer program. And oh God, there were 3 individual young men who came to me over the course of the 5 years that I had this program. And I think they came out to me in confidence. And I was, befit as to, there was nowhere that I could send, that I could refer them to, counselor of elders, I mean, my son is D, so I had some experience there, and I helped as best I could. But it's very difficult because you have to be careful. Oh, there was Mary on a Saturday volunteering with the animals, and I would know the parents dropping and picking them up, and you have to be so careful with what I told them, but I tried my best, but I really wish there was somewhere I could go to aid. I need some help. So like, were you around then? I don't think so. No.
But
So, thinking about that.
could you tell us how were you able to get to the point that you were at to be comfortable? Or how did you deal with Michael's coming out? Or what was your process like?
There was nothing to come to. I was there.
What was Michael? Okay, hi. So what was life coming out like for you?
It was beautiful. You hugged me and cried, and I kissed you, and I told you I loved you. And then,
did you suspect before? Did you have any inkling?
I mean, oh, maybe, yeah, in like the last year, the last year, when you were 16, 17,
Just go to the left a little bit.
But I mean, Michael grew up with his brother. There were never any boy toys or girl toys, I was just always like that. And there was no judgment. The only thing was that there was a sort of glittery greed that passed through in that I myself growing up, because of the way I look at being in Trinidad, there have been challenges, and stereotyping and, prejudices and all of that. And I sort of knew, oh God, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
But so Raymond's character is the father.
Yeah.
And sometimes the father is stereotyped as being the bad one and the mother is more accepting.
Yeah.
Was that the situation in your case? Was his dad?
Dad was pretty kind of, I think were we separated yet? Yeah. His dad and I were separated. And and I haven't had much, talk. He's never brought it up with me, and I'm just like, well, he's got to deal with it, He's got to deal with Michael, how he can do it. I think he's, I don't know, because I've never never really spoken. Mike can speak about that.
What you?
I mean, so that is good. He's pretty good as well. He's not like the mom's level. It's just not very sad. But we actually have a really good relationship. And I think very much because of what you were saying, Kennedy, my patience and but also my firmness of like, okay, like I will be patient and I will wait and I will give you time and I will, give you, a statement and let you come back to me. But I remember I had to have a sit down talk with him. With Mom, it was kind of, cried in her arms and she was like, okay, well, if you ever need to talk about boys, like, let me know.
I couldn't find, not the joy of these sex, but the couldn't find it.
But Dad was a little bit tougher. He was a little bit tougher, and I really had to sit down with him towards the end of my college years, my undergrad years. And I said, okay, like, how do you feel about our communication right now? Our level of communication, the frequency with which we talk, and stuff like that. And he was like, oh, I'd like to communicate more. And I was like, okay, cool, so would I. I was like, but a lot of the times when I tell you about large swaths of my life, including the fact that I'm gay or, poor or whatever, you kind of shut down on. And like, that's okay. I get that you need quick time, these are overwhelming things. But if you don't respond, and you respond when my brother Elliot or whatever talks about girls and girlfriends and things, and you never respond and never come back to me. Because, at one point he said in a discussion, he was like, but like, I just need time. And I was like, that's cool, but like, I'm not, what is the response time? Because it's been a year and we haven't, you've never re-engaged on that topic. And so I think that was the moment where he was like, damn, I do see how I am just stepping back and choosing not to interact with that part. And I said, okay, that's fine. But understand that if that's what you do, then I will stop stepping forward as much. I can only accept myself and put myself out there so much, otherwise our relationship will just be different if we won't talk that much.
Now, Raymond, could you remind us, for those who have not ever seen this play, some of the context? So you heard from a mom's perspective. From what you were telling me, the mother in the play
was very understanding.
She was?
Yes. Very, very understanding.
That's not
Very matter of fact. Very matter of fact. What I'm observing, is that there's such a wide variety of our experiences as kids. You know what I mean? You just describing your relationship with your mother and father, which is kind of like typical. But you have situations where children have very aggressive and militant parents, and they have to deal with the extreme, about violence, and yes, and stuff like putting them out of the house and all of that sort of business. I don't know if there's anybody in this community, in this room here now, that has that kind of experience, but that exists. So it's all well and good for us to say, well, my mother was good, my father maybe didn't talk to me a lot, which is something similar to what I had, very similar to what I had. But I know of people that there was no communication at all. There was just aggression. So it's not always like you get a half an understanding mother and a father that is aggressive, like the play. Sometimes it's both parents.
Do we have anyone? I don't think I should allow you to speak.
Who is that?
That's my mom.
Yes,
Hi, Mom.
Hi, everyone. I thought that's why you brought me tonight.
Yeah, I don't want to be accused of bias.
Is your mother?
Yes.
I know Mr. Chukam.
We are neighbors from Marina. Of course. Oh, God, yes.
So they were our laundry.
Yes.
Our laundry.
Brand.
So I don't really go anywhere, but Rudy asked me to come tonight. Rudy doesn't really know his father because his father went for 6 months to go abroad to live. So he grew up with my parents, and he knows my father as his father. As a matter of fact, he would refer to my father as dad. And my father is a very strict man, old-fashioned Hindu, and a macho man, as you call it. So he would think that a male must have girlfriends and they must be strong, and he would not accept this kind of thing at home. Now, growing up, I myself, I can't remember at what age I really found out.
I was 14.
Okay. I can't recall.
I remember.
Okay. But, and I can't remember my reaction at the time.
I'll tell him after.
I can't remember. But you have to know that I was brought up in a very strict home. I am also very strict. I even control sexual relationships and so on. I'm very strict with these things. So you can imagine because we're going to the other side, right? I don't believe in adultery. I get a boyfriend, right? So he might send a food, right? So I have to accept this because he's my son. He didn't ask to come into the world, and I love him, and I know that everybody is different. And once he does break certain rules, and those rules will be things like fooling people, lying, stealing, those kind of things, right? But he has to live his life. I'll be there and gone. I do not feel, that him. I hope he finds somebody he can trust and have a loyal companion that I worry about those things. But he has made me very proud because, especially in Trinidad, I worry about his safety, especially with this thing coming out with Putin, and I can't worry him because there are these stupid people out there that they don't think, they just hate him, and they might see him and know easy face. People call me and say the emails from Trinidad because they saw me on the television and something. Now, I was almost an outcast in my family. I was pregnant by that man. It's my father's very. If I had stayed in my home with my pregnancy, my father would have literally cut my throat. So that's the kind of father I am. So when they found out about Rudy, which is just the other day, about 3 years ago.
Well, the thing about that is, I believe that my grandfather always, so we're using him as my archetype as father. I believe he always knew because he was an attorney, very well read. There are books in his library that deal with homosexual issues. But I think as he got older, his dementia or something of that sort started to set in, and he was forgetting certain nuances of life. And one of my partner at the time came over, and I guess it being thrust back into his face at 80-something years old in that confused state, that was the first time in my whole life, 33 years of being loved by this, because he treated me even better than he treated his own children, and they will tell you that. I was like, in a Hindu home, the first boy is really like, and I was first and a boy, so for the first time in 33 years, I got a very negative reaction from him. And he had met some of my former partners before, and he had never responded that way. So this is exactly what you said. I had to remove myself from the situation and give him space and not get upset with him at the very end of his life, because he had done so much for me, and I'm named after him and everything. To the point where I moved out of the house, I'd gone there to see about them with my mom, and he started telling me to come back home, after a year or so. And so I guess in his own way he had processes, and he never brought it up again after that one or two instances. So, but I have had friends, like when I went to QRC, younger friends, whose fathers blew a gasket, and one of them actually beat his son. He beat him, and I found out about it afterwards, and the brother or somebody had to pull him off of his son. I don't know that per se personally, but if just that one negative reaction from my grandfather affected me so much, I could imagine start to imagine how someone who's dealing with that every day feels. parents, and I think that that's important.
But let me say this: if you were his son, he would have beat you. Or put you on the house. He was that kind of man, right? But you were the grandchild, and he loved you and all that kind of thing. And then he was old at that time. But I want to say something here. I don't really believe in forcing people to accept your lifestyle. There are things you will do or people will do you do like. Some people don't like short men, fat men, this woman, that's their taste. And so you cannot, because you are this baby like that, you accept it. It's just like religion kind of thing, right? People just have to learn to respect people and basic human rights for everybody and that kind of thing. But with parents, because you know what I passed through with my parents, right? They, because of how we go brought up and they strict, I know what I'm dealing with. So when I got pregnant, I did not come to say, Mommy and Daddy, I'm pregnant, accepted. I moved out. I went, I got a place to live, and I was there. They didn't know where I was till long after. I was not going to use the home, I don't moved before. So I'm not going to, because I chose to do that, it was my decision or whatever. Expect them to, oh, it's my child, I did, you know. They have to come around.
Yeah.
And if they never come around, well, I live my life, you live your life, that kind of thing. What you all have to do, and I was telling you this when you told me about his friend in season, you all have to strengthen them, work with them. So let them know, hey, your parents said, okay, well, you know, it's your life. You have friends, you have support, go ahead. It's just like any other problems other people may have. So don't think too much of people wanting your life in your parents. You have your friends and your group and try and work with that and empower them and let them know that they are somebody and they will be accepted and respected. So you just become
So there you have it, folks. It's a broad cross section. The entire clip of that evening is available on our Facebook page, as are most of our events. We know how important it is to document these things and ensure that people who do not feel comfortable to attend on the evening itself to be able to listen and take it in afterwards. So it's a complicated process, and even those of us that are privileged enough and blessed enough to have more accepting households and family and mothers and fathers, there's still a process that they go through as parents, and we're hoping to explore some of that this evening. So at first I wasn't intending to share much about my own experience, but what was very interesting about trying to put tonight together is that we still don't have enough parents who are willing to publicly discuss these issues. And therefore the team sort of settled on those of us that could share a story or two to provide the color to do so. And later on in life, my mom actually attended the very first Pride parade, as did, yes, there she is. No matter how old you get, I can tell you that you always look for your mother when you need somebody to cry on. So, and the newspapers actually interviewed her about her support, and she gave them one of her commonly snooty answers. That's, well, that's my son, so what do you expect me to do? But again, that is not everybody's experience. And That's why tonight we do have with us Shahan, who is the chairperson of Uni Pride, and Shahan will tell you a little bit more about herself and maybe her story. But we're also joined by my partner's mother, who was actually there that evening, the first night, with Raymond, Desiree Arnold, Dr. Desiree Arnold. And Shahan, I'll now hand it over to you to engage and to talk a little bit with Desiree about some of these issues and, what the different experiences might look like, and to hear firsthand again from another mother who is more accepting and loving than some of the other stories we've heard. So thank you again, everyone, and over to you, Shahan.
Thanks so much for that, Rudy. Well, good night, everyone. I'm Shahan, as Rudy said. Um, so, a little bit about my story is that it's not as amazing as supportive as Rudy's. I came out in 2019 under the impression that I would have been outed by my then partner's parents. So I came out, and it wasn't met with um, open arms. In other words, the first thing I had written on two sheets of paper, back and front. Um, I had written it down for my mother, and I had told her I need to tell her something. But when she's finished cooking, and I gave it to her after she finished cooking, and she read it, and then she texted me and told me to come to her room. The first thing out of my mother's mouth was that I'm a disappointment as a child. So that was the first thing. I just stood at her door frame with the door closed behind me, leaning up on the door frame, crying, because that is not something you want to hear your parents tell you, um, especially when it's something so hard as coming out of the closet, especially to them, because I had friends who had known since the year before that, December of the year before that, and so that was one of the things she told me, and then since then well, she tried to prevent me from seeing my then partner, which she did. She put a strain on the relationship, and that relationship ended. When that ended, I wasn't in a really good place. I'm not gonna go much into that because that's tonight is not the place for that one. But I honestly wish that I had supportive parents at that point in time. And up to now, she has never brought it up. The last time she brought it up was January of last year to ask me if me and my then partner, if we were in, if we were still in a relationship or not. And then I told her no. And ever since then, she never brought it up except I think it was last year, November, October, November, when I had done a public post on my Facebook, sharing that with everyone on my Facebook page, which has aunties and uncles and every one of them, sharing them with them about my sexuality. And my father, my biological father, he proceeded to call her, right, and call her and tell her that I posted such and such is the case. That was the only time we ever spoke about it, and her views were the same. So I am in a position where I'm at a point where I'm not expecting her to come around because it'll be 2 years come the ending of, I think it's the beginning of October or the end of October. I can't really remember, right? But it will be 2 years, and she still hasn't come around or anything like that. So I'm not holding my breath, but it will be nice to engage with other parents like Dr. Arnold, um, to see like how was how was your reaction when your son came out? Like what was your reaction when he came out and told you that about his sexuality and stuff?
Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you to be here. Good evening, Shahan. I feel very empathic about your pain and not getting the support that you would like or that you need from those very close to you, like your mom. For me, before I say how I reacted, how it was when Keita came out, the thing was like since kindergarten almost, Keita was all the time being teased. Ulaman, oh, you're gay, or this. His favorite color was different than other children. He was, not the macho type, but the empathic type. And unfortunately, instead of saying what I would want to say, is like, so what? He's my son. And when he came out, he was like about 18 or 19. Sorry, Kate, that I don't remember the exact age. But it was like a big weight lifted off for clarity to know where I, as a parent, stand um, with my child. So when people from the public, from our environment, and also family were condemning, not really condemning him, but all the negative input you will get as a mother if your child is not according to the norm and the expectations, and you find yourself all the time in a different defending mode. Now, after he came out, the day he came out, I was just glad. I hugged him and I said, oh, I'm so happy that you can stand by yourself. And I gave him a long, tight hug. And I felt really relieved because from then on, I knew if somebody told me, oh, your son, funny, what did you do wrong? Or so, I said, I did nothing wrong. He's the most wonderful person that I could have raised. And I love him so much how he is. And so what? What's it your business? You understand? It's
True.
really. I also come from a different country. I come from Switzerland, where we already have, like, since over 20 years, the Love Parade. And I remember when I was 12, the movie came out, Boys Don't Cry. And so I was much more in this accepting world of accepting persons how they are. What does it matter who you are attracted to once it's an adult and they love you back? What is the problem of how you like to dress, or how you present yourself when you walk? It have also people who are straight who have a more feminine walk or a more masculine walk, and you're constantly under bombardment that something is wrong with you, but nothing is wrong with you.
True.
Yeah, nothing is wrong with you. For me, it was a great relief when he came out, and it was kind of sad for me to know that he came out before to other people he didn't even really know personally, like online and so on. But again, I can very well understand because he was right through there. When I was like constantly just saying, leave him alone, oh no, he's not gay, like when he was so 14, 15, 16. And then when he came out, I had no more problems because there wasn't nothing to be defend. There was simply a son to stand by
Mm-hmm.
and continue loving him and supporting him in what he does. Even now, like how he's Rudy's partner. Sometimes I hear from my circle, oh, well, I don't care if someone is gay, but do you have it to rub it in someone's face? I say, but how you mean rubbing it in someone's face, Well, why do they want to be all the time recognized? They could be like just gay behind closed doors or so. Why they have to be in public? Why this? I say, because they're part of our society.
That's right.
They are part of our industries. They are part of our families. They are we as one.
Mm-hmm.
And here in
I,
Trinidad, it had a lot of work to do still. I remember the first
I know.
Pride, and people were very reluctant in coming out to attend the events, to be seen there, to say something. And I am really happy, and I would always support Titi Pride and my son and anybody. Sometimes, well, as a doctor too, it would have persons who come and ask for help because they don't know who to talk to. They have been rejected by their families. They don't have no support, a very lonely place. And this is also what I tell my circle of people who do not have much understanding for it, that loneliness is and not being understood and not being able who you are is the hardest part of life. And there are enough people who don't struggle with sexuality now in this societal accepted norms who have the same problems. It just hurts when you're discriminated, judged, and so on. Yeah.
I I had the opportunity of meeting Keita last year for the first time actually. And he is such a genuine soul. Like, I think it was when we were going to Parliament last year for the launch. Rudy Keita, I think was Shiv, they had come to pick me up. And that ride down, like we were talking about my story. And Keita was, I don't know, Keita was just the most, he and Rudy actually, they were just the most welcoming of people. And you know how did they say your blood take to some people and your blood don't take to some people? I just felt like family to them because I was a complete outsider and they made me feel so welcome. And I just don't know. It's it's amazing that I can that we can share all these positives because a lot of people think that when you come out of the closet, it's always negative, like probably my story, or you're getting kicked out of your family's house and being thrown on the streets, and you have nowhere to go. But then we have an amazing end like Keita's, right? And Rudy's, like we saw earlier, where the mothers, you all accepted them with open arms, right? Because I honestly thought my mother had known. I didn't think she was going to have that reaction. I honestly thought she had known, but she didn't apparently, or she wasn't ready to accept it because after the fact, like very recently, from a very close family friend who I consider my father. He is very welcoming and him and his wife, they are very accepting of me and my sexuality. Um, he told me that there was a conversation that took place prior to me coming out where they wanted him to talk to me about my sexuality because they didn't want me to be gay or a part of the community, and they just didn't want that. So they thought that if he spoke to me I would go straight, I guess. So it's just very heartwarming to know that we have very welcoming parents in the community, and not everyone has to go through what some of us went through. And so I know my story is not the worst of the worst. We have worst of the worst, but it's just very admirable, right? It's just very admirable that he had that support and he still has that support, right? My question to you is how did you feel when, not really how did you feel, but how did you handle like Keita like coming around with, I know about Rudy, so Keita is bringing Rudy to like maybe family events if that happened. Like, how did you handle your family members or those who are closest to you? You know they always have something to say. How did you handle that and handle defending him in that sense?
Oh, well, I I don't have like much family events or so on. I know that Keita's grandmom saw Rudy already. She was okay. She said, "Oh, they're so cute together, and like they're so nice with one another." Um, and I I'm not a very social person. I would like more meet Keita and his friends in
Mm-hmm.
by Rudy or so than having people coming home by us. And those who do, they would know. But then, there are also other family members, like from the father side. I don't know whether they know. They should know if they are on Facebook. They will know. But uh, I remember that even his father said, "So, do you have a girlfriend?" And then, "No." Or a boyfriend, but he didn't ask, another boyfriend or so. So I I don't know. We have left the father already like 15 years and more. So I basically raised him by myself. Um, but definitely, if I go anywhere or when, I say now if because it hasn't happened, but it has changed from defending to stipulate to saying, hey, you know, who are you to judge? It's like, hey,
Yeah.
your nose is too big. What happened to you? Something went wrong? What did your parents do wrong with that? Oh, that's how it grew. I say, oh, really? It's like you can be evil in many ways. It's not about being ugly to one another. It's about accepting and bringing out the positive qualities in people. Because if you look around, everyone has a problem, and sometimes you're not accepted for several reasons, but we're talking now especially about homosexuals, lesbian, gay persons who face a different discrimination. So for me, because I guess it's because I am confident and proud of Keita, that I don't feel insecure if somebody would come and say something. I think the biggest problem is that parents are insecure I know I cut ties with some friends because they said, "Oh, how could you tolerate that?" I say, "What the heck?" They start to talk about Sodom and Gomorrah and about this is the end, and and so did you talk to him to get back to his senses? I say, "Hey, watch me, like we really don't need that because nothing is wrong with him." And most times I would say it's parents who feel insecure.
Yes.
The insecurity of embarrassment, and maybe they think they should have done better. Did I eat right during pregnancy? They look, sometimes other people
Yeah.
look at it like a malformation, like you're born crippled, and or you're born sick and there must be a treatment or a healing, and that is just not the case. So this is also why then parents would feel like they failed their children. It's their fault. And now they put in shame on the family. And
Yes.
instead of accepting it, this is how your child was born. This is what was trusted to you to raise and to love, and to create a world, and to raise the child to have its space in this world, no
That is
matter
so true.
the sexual orientation.
That is
Yeah.
so true because that religion, the Solomon Gomorrah part you brought up. I mean, I know we have an interreligious service some point in time down soon, but I am Hindu, right? So the first thing out my mom's mouth after that I was a disappointment is that it is against my religion to be gay. So after I got over all the emotions and stuff, I went and I Googled it. And I found that there is nothing within my specific religion that says you cannot be a homosexual, you cannot be a part of the community and those kinds of things. I linked like there is I can't remember this person's name on TikTok. There is a TikToker. She I believe she is Hindu. She highlighted all the different deities in us, like different forms that are gay, bisexual, well, not really bisexual, but gay, transgender, those kinds of along within the community. In other words, and a lot of people don't know these things. And a lot of the things that parents do is that they kind of guilt trip you into thinking, okay, especially if you're strong with your religion like how I am. That's what my mother did. Guilt tripped me to the ends of the world to tell me that I would go in front of the form I would go in front of every Sunday morning, and I would tell her I am gay and this and that. And my response was yes, I did that. I went, and it was a statue or a murti of Durga Ma. That's one of our deities in our religion. I used to go to temple every Sunday with my father. I would go and do that, go into her room and just talk to her in plain English, like how you and I are chatting right now, right? And tell her, listen, I call her mama. I'll be like, listen, mama, such and such is the case. You know this before I even knew this, right? You know, I don't like guys. I like girls. And I would just stand up and have a normal conversation with her. And I honestly didn't see the point in pulling the religion card. And then they would go one step deeper and say, you know, you might kill somebody if you tell them. That is what she told me. That if my grandfather found out, which I think he already knows, right? That I will kill him. So that is another piece of what she told me. But I honestly agree with you because they are so focused on what their family members would think and what their friends would think, and not thinking about how is my child feeling having to do this, having to come and tell me these things, right? Because honestly, last thing I think any parent who has another stray child, right, would think is that the eldest one will come out and say, "Hey, I don't like, in my case, I don't like guys. I like girls." And I mean, I think that's probably the last thing she thought that would have come out my mouth, or she would have read on that piece of paper. But to me, at the end of it, you need not to think what your friends or your family would think, because at the end of it all, she reads all these posts on MSN and those things where, and she listens to news, foreign news, and these things about how the LGBTQ plus community is being impacted, like how folks who aren't accepted by their parents, they commit suicide, right? I'm going to put my business out there to the public. I did contemplate that last year, February thereabout, right? I have proof of that, right? But she didn't want to think of that. And I noticed all she thought about was, what will my family think? What will my friends think? What will everybody say? Will they disown me, well, her as a mother, or will they disown Shivani as a child? Well, Shivani, whichever one. Will they disown me as a person, as a child? And those kinds of things. But at the end of it all, what they should have been thinking about was how I was feeling, and the emotional strains I had to go through just to come and say, hey, such and such is the case, right? And it honestly, it's news to me, because I chatted with Rudy, I think yesterday morning, and Rudy said that I think she will come around, and I smiled when Rudy said that, but deep down inside, I know there's a 75% chance that she's not gonna, and there's a 25% chance that she might, right? And I'm at a point where I'm okay with it. So I don't know. It's just that I don't want it to take a toll on my relationship right now, the one that I'm currently in. Right? I don't want to take a toll on that because my current partner wants to be my mother. But I don't want that happening because I know the the strain it's going to put and the kind of things that may or may not happen. So yeah, that's my thing. But honestly, what do you have, like what what advice would you have in my case? Like how do I do that in terms of making the bigger picture and making it accepted.
Well, one thing is, you can't force someone to change their belief, but you can make someone understand and realize that there are different views which could change their position in your acceptance. Now, if you, your mom or I find like, yes, if your mom, has she ever spoken with other parents of another person who is
She's never been
gay?
open to doing that. She doesn't want to do it.
Um, yeah, well, you know yourself when you're not ready for something, you're not ready yet, right? So
Yeah.
you might have to give her time. And do you still live at home now, or
Yes,
you
I
moved out?
unfortunately I still do because of COVID. So I still do.
Oh, okay. And um, what exactly it is that you want from your mom when you say that she is accepting?
I honestly, I don't, to me, it doesn't matter that she's, hey, my daughter is gay or anything like that. I just don't want the added pressure. Like, if, if I say, listen, I'm going out with this person and I say name, don't let the first thing out your mouth be like, so is that your girlfriend? Like, I can have friends that I go out with to like go to the mall or whatever with, and it doesn't always have to be that. Or if I just come and say, hey, this is my this is my girlfriend, right? And this is normal introduction. Just be like, hi, be cordial. You're not okay with it, then fine, we know you're not okay with it. But be cordial and just let it be. Because I know, we all know that I'm not gonna change who I am. It's just to be cordial, but it kind of hard to do that at the same time too.
Yeah, it's always easy to judge others, right? It's easy to be
Yeah,
judged yourself. And for your mom, I wish she could open her heart to accept you as a full authority person with her choices, and be proud of this wonderful person you are. You have such a wonderful personality.
thank you.
I think we came a time and picked you up. I think I was in the car a time and we came
I
and
I
I,
can
I think I remember once something. Somehow the name rings a bell, and also the face. And sometimes, I don't want to tell stories out of my life, but parents are like, when they hear somebody else and they tell them something positive and nice about their child, they can warm up.
yes.
Like even somebody who doesn't come and want to talk about this topic, I want you to accept me that I am gay. Because first of all, you want to be accepted that you are Shahan, you are this wonderful person, and you, so you don't want to be judged. So if she, how to say, well, like me, I would just make it like so. I might pass and pick up something and then be like, oh my God, you're Sean's mother. I always wanted to meet you. You have such a great daughter. You must be so proud of it. It might shoot out the other end. This has happened with my mother. Somebody was telling her, oh my God, I'm your this is your daughter. You must be so proud of her. And the woman stood there with her chin fallen on the ground, because like my mother, for the first time in my life, I saw her ranting and saying, everything about me bad. And I felt like, oh my God, I want to sink in the floor because these were clients of mine. You understand this?
Oh,
And the big clients of mine. And it was like, oh my God. And then the woman watched me and she said, I'm so sorry. I didn't intend that. But, sometimes that explosion will take away a lot of the pressure, especially when the steam goes off. And I would say, well, you missing out. I would decorate myself with pride,
yes.
because for sure to have a child like you, I would be so happy to add you to a fourth child of mine. So, um, but it is really today in Trinidad. We are really blessed and fortunate that Pride has done so much work to give a safe space to youngsters, kids, young adults, also older ones who are coming out and who struggle to have a, a place of confidence, trust, a home, a nest,
Hmm.
where you can be yourself. Because, like, before Pride existed, it's really a strange place, because sometimes it have people, they say, oh my God, I'm suffering so much because I'm gay, and it's so dangerous, and the family is not accepting. And I am like, well, we are in Trinidad. I think it's the most gay place I've ever visited or lived in. Um, but everybody is hidden who
Yeah,
is gay, because they're afraid of repercussions of uh, there is so many things that hate could cause. And I think if your mother could start to remember how she loved you before you came out, or before she had to accept it, she could reconnect her heart and soften it again to be accepting you as who you became, and
true.
who you show now that you are.
It wasn't, honestly, it wasn't an easy road to get to the place where I am today. And I can't take all the credit for it because without people like Rudy, Keita, Faye, um, Sharon, because at that point in time Sharon was still in the States, she wasn't in Trinidad. Not forgetting everyone else, but it was people like them who last year, my first Pride actually, helped me feel accepted and helped me get to a point where I I became okay in terms of dealing with my mom and her views behind it. And then I have people that support me. Like, I'm not gonna call their names because I don't want to do that, but they're very close to me. And I call them my father, my daddy, and my mommy because that's who they are. They accept me and they don't treat me like an outsider. And my partner, she accepts me for me, like all the weird, quirky, childish versions of me, everything. Those little things, like her and the folks that accept me, and Rudy and Kate, Faye, everybody. They just made me feel so accepted and so loved that it sort of drowned out a sense of how she treats me and how she moves with me and those kinds of things. It sort of drowned it out, to a lot compared to what it used to be. pre-June 2020. So that was that was that was that was really, I am forever grateful for them. I would always say that. I am forever grateful for all those people. And I
Mm.
just want to thank you for bringing Keita up in such an amazing way, because Keita is one of them who helped me get through it as well. So I just want to thank you for bringing up such an amazing son, because he's a really amazing person. And whoever haven't met Keita yet, y'all will meet Keita one day. I always see exactly what I'm talking about. He really is amazing, and he really is awesome. So that is that is me for this part. I just want to thank you for joining us, because I know this was really last minute to ask you to be a part of this discussion tonight, because we I don't know if you know this. We had another guest. Her name is Michelle Omar. Her daughter recently came out, and I believe she did what I think a lot of folks who are closeted or just came out and stuff. Last thing their parent will do is do a video, um, you know, talking about their child's sexuality and accepting it on such a public stage and posting it. So she was not able to attend, because last minute she herself she had a medical emergency to deal with. So we I wish her the best of to a speedy recovery, actually, from myself, Pride TT Unipride, and it's you, Dr. Arnold. We wish her a speedy recovery, but I think they want her message that she shared. I I think it's important that we also share her video that she did. So I think this is where we wind back a little bit, and we pull the video up on screen, and we look at the video that she did for her daughter.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to hashtag Keeping It Real with Michelle. This is my personal blog, and today I'm a very proud mommy here. This is Pride Month, so to all in the community, I want to wish you a fantabulous, awesome, wonderful month. Keep being safe, keep being real, just like I am being real, because this gorgeous young lady sitting here is my daughter, Sulin Omar Laiba. And today we are proud and coming out as a pansexual. So she, just like when we had these talks, and when she said, Mom, this is when I want to do it, and here we are, and I'm so glad to be here with her. And I'm trying to say something before we cut off, and she takes That's all right. I love you all. Be safe. And look out for my blog on hashtag Keeping It Real with Michelle.
Wow. You know, it's really important to offer some context, I think, for tonight's discussion as we close off. And I want to start by saying that what we tried to do is showcase the broad spectrum of what a person's experience from both sides, parent and child. Shahan, we really want to publicly appreciate your strength for sharing your story and talking about it. And similarly, Dr. Arnold Desiree for being so open and equally strong, because these are not easy things for people to share. It's personal matters. You know, you're doing a service for others. And what what we are hoping is that people will see themselves in you. You know, Shahan, there are other young queer persons out there. Desiree, there are other mothers and fathers, hopefully, out there who are listening to this and they are asking the same questions, they want to have the same conversations, and through your strength, they are able to have these internal dialogues. And that is really what it's about. But we cannot allow what you're doing here tonight to simply pass by and we take it for granted. It is a lot, and the entire management team recognizes that. And on behalf of Shahan, you know this, all those people that tune in year after year, you see the feedback, you
Yeah.
know that it's for a good purpose. So thank you very much, both of you, for sharing openly. And if it's any consolation for others, I mean, I've been around long enough, right? So I'm one of those older children. Faye sometimes jokes about this as well, and others of us who are big horses, right? Our parents, no matter how old you get, still see you as their child. And
I am more
e-
reminded.
even with, no, but it's true, even with acceptance, maybe everything in life is relative. So even with acceptance in one aspect, bet your bottom dollar there were many things growing up that my mother did not approve of, that I was on the receiving end of my own fair share of. For those of you who know my mother, she has a very big mouth. Um, so it's balance. It's not all wonderful and roses and ice cream. Children and parents always have issues with each other. There's a lot of psychosocial study behind this, right? It's about navigating for space. It's about, people becoming an adult and wanting to be independent, and parents always having that, well, most parents always having that nurturing, protective, sort of almost OCD approach to their children. This is what you're supposed to be, this is what you're supposed to do, this is. But I must say that even my friends, again, all of us are pushing 40. There's a whole spectrum. There are some of my friends who started off with very violent relationships, and I use that word very specifically, very violent relationships with their family. And as they were able to find family within the community and use that support mechanism so that they could refocus on their schoolwork or their careers, and they became more independent and they were able to move out, etc. Over time, their parents had no choice but to come around. I have some friends whose parents have never come around. They don't know anything about my friends' lives. They don't share anything about their children. And I've lived long enough to say this to parents out there, that we have lost people in our community, and we, the survivors, have lived to hear their parents regret not sharing their children's lives and making some of the choices that parents make, perhaps with the correct intention, but in the wrong approach. So don't be one of those parents. Yes, by all means, be a general overbearing parent and always be fast and precocious and where you're going and did you study or you're staying in that job, but don't be one of those parents that closes the door on sharing your children's lives, because none of us know how long we're here for, and you don't want to end up in a position of regret. And I think, thankfully, you're some of the parents out there and the children, you all are seeing that we can come out on the other side of this. We can still fight and carry on with our parents and have moments where we're all upset and slamming doors. But at the end of the day, we are there for each other. We are their legacy. Uh, as parents get older, children have to tend to their needs. So think about all of these things and try your best to mend fences and be there for each other, but accept on both sides that you will never agree on everything all the time.
Yeah.
Just don't be malicious about these things. So that's all I guess I can share from my own experience. And Shahan, Desiree, any final thoughts or closing comments before we close off tonight and tell people about what else they have to do for Pride?
Oh. Shahan, you go first. Maybe I come up with something.
Um, my closing comments would be to the parents who may be looking at this. Don't put additional pressure on your children or on your child, right? Because it's hard enough as a young person coming out of the closet, and especially in such a way, especially if you're still in university, because I was still in university when I did that, right? Some of us, we have nowhere to go if, God forbid, we were to get put out. I personally, that will be my situation, right? But don't put additional pressure on your child. You need to sit down, regardless if you that's not something you want to hear or not. Don't put the additional pressure. Sit down, talk to them, listen, hear what they have to say, and hear why. If they don't know why they are how they are, don't push it. Just give them that comfort and that listening ear. And if they so happen to bring home their partner, you don't you don't like it or accept it in that way, fine. But don't show the person a bad face because your son or daughter's partner, they didn't do anything to you, right? This is something your child, you know, this is your child. This is the baby you gave birth to. Accept it into a way where this is how it needs to be, and this is how my child chooses to love, and this is how who they choose to love, right? Just be there, give them that support that they need. Don't do like what mine did. Don't let the first words out your mouth is you're a disappointment as a child, because that will haunt your child for the rest of their life. Trust me when I tell you, it's almost 2 years, and that still haunts me up to this day. That is not something you want to tell your child that that they are a disappointment. That will be my closing remarks in terms of that.
Thanks again, Shahan. We love you.
You're
And
welcome.
don't worry, I told you one day moms will be cooking for us and we'll come over and lime, right?
Okay, if you say
Yes,
so
we
then.
do that. Welcome. We'll walk with something too. Yes, I'm very bad with closing words and I didn't prepare anything. But what I would like to say here is to the parents who are um, viewing and taking part in Pride and try to understand more what is going on in the lives and in the hearts and of their children, um, to I started the sentence so good. um, to take this opportunity and be part of Pride and realize that we are not perverted people. We are people. That is one. Understanding, knowing more, um, meeting other people who might have felt the same way how you feel now about because I, as a parent, I know you loved your child when it was born, when it grew up, and you might have had your suspicions, and then it came through, and you have problems to accept your child still as to give it the same love that you gave it before. And you should know this is still your child. It's you're not condemned. You should go out, seek information, speak to other parents. You can speak with me if you want to speak with me. If and be open. You only you know. Another thing is somebody wrote a comment, I believe was Sharon. Let me go down in the comments where she says, there comes a point in our lives where we have to live for ourselves and not for those who made us. Now, I know I had a lot of problems with my parents, and I would love to say, even you can't cut out people and feel you're going to heal. When you cut off a finger, you have a finger less, right? You might sometimes put the conflict on a back burner, be respectful and amicable, like Joanne says. And for the children, you are growing to be adults. You will have to start to identify yourself not as the son or the daughter or the child of your parents, but you are also building your personality, because you know how we have like places. I met already people. I say, "Oh, who are you?" "Ah, I'm so and so son." I'm like, "Okay, so who are you?" And then they come out with their name and talk about themselves. So it is, you can build your identity and accept that identity. You are yourself without the acceptance of your parents. Sometimes the parents need a little kick too. Children always think parents are gods and they know everything and so on, but parents have their issues too, their pressure too, their disappointments too. And for us here with Pride, Rudy, you said it, you have a family within there, and there is where you can rest. And please, parents, get informed to the hurt and how you can lessen the hurt and bring joy into your lives with your unique rainbow children. Please reach out, talk to people.
Wow, thank you again for sharing, both of you. And as we bring tonight to a close, a very profound evening, lots of complex, deep discussions, remember that this is what Pride TT is trying to do, is to spotlight these conversations, create programming that didn't exist before, and allow platforms for this type of sharing. So tomorrow evening, we're so happy that the Trinidad and Tobago Trans Coalition has been able to mobilize across the region and utilize Pride TT's platform. They'll be hosting a Trans Women Caribbean Summit. So they'll be discussing a lot of interregional issues and developing a roadmap for how they want to move forward. And some of these topics as well will be dealt with in those discussions. On Wednesday, we are once again partnering with Sharon Motley and Women's Caucus to bring you an edition entitled I've Got Two Moms. And what that really is about is listening to queer mothers. So these are lesbians or queer women, queer identified women who have taken the decision to have children, and we wanted to understand that point of view as well. because that could not be easy in Trinidad and Tobago. And we've heard some of these stories already. But again, for women out there in the community thinking of having children of their own, or who already have children and are navigating that space, we're hoping that Wednesday's session will provide some insights. We move through the week with a workshop with Marcus Kissoon, which will explore people's move to freedom, dealing with the stories of queer migrants. On Friday this week, we're actually having a Latin exchange. So Micah Clark, he will be hosting uh, an an interactive session where we'll be learning how to share greetings and initial conversations and build friendships and relationships between Latin American persons and Trinidad and Tobago, or English speaking persons for that matter. And of course, Friday night into Saturday and Sunday, we will also be hosting our Queer Close Up Film Festival. It's Pride TT's annual film festival, and we have some fantastic movies lined up for you all this year. So, again, we're into the third week. Don't miss any of the events live, but if you do, the most of them will be on social media afterwards. Not all of them, and then we'll move into next week. Don't forget as well that this year we've replaced the parade with a vaccinade and perhaps a motorcade, and we're working with the Ministry of Health to organize to have members of our community basically coordinated so that we can ensure that those of us who wish to be vaccinated, and I hope most of us do want to be vaccinated, can have that opportunity. So we're just working out the details with them. So visit pridett.com, all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Join us, share the events, share the comments, and support Pride TT. You can do so by making a donation, again, through our online portals. Download our app, which is available on the Google Play Store and shortly on Apple. And through that app, you can access all of our content as well as some community resources. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Shahan. Thank you, Dr. Arnold, Desiree. Thank you to Zoe in the production room, all of Pride TT's management committee, our co-chairs, our board, and all of our supporters and stakeholders. Happy Pride, be safe, and we'll see you again tomorrow, 7:21 p.m.